about to begin.
Bienvenidos, si pueden tomar su asiento, vamos a empezar.
As we get ready to do our candidate forum, a friendly reminder, we have food in the back and the bathrooms are behind you as well.
Un recordatorio para todos los que están asistiendo hoy. Tenemos comida allí atrás, tenemos aguas y los baños están atrás también.
I'm gonna call up Amelia, who is going to let everyone know about our translation that's going on live, in person, and by Zoom.
Hola, muy buenas tardes.
Your mic. Oh, maybe that's what it is. Does that work? Yeah, there we go.
Hola, muy buenas tardes a todos. Esta junta tiene interpretación simultánea en el lenguaje de español. Para poder hacer la interpretación, si usted está aquí en personas con nosotros, viéndonos de cara a cara, allá atrás habrá unos aparatitos que tienen un listón azul. De esa manera puede ir a recogerlo y de esa manera puede empezar a escuchar en español. Si usted está por Zoom, el proceso va a ser diferente. Si usted está por computadora, buscarán el icono de un mundo que aparece en su pantalla. Luego seleccionarán español y los invito a silenciar el audio original, de esa manera no escucha dos voces. Si está por tableta o por teléfono, el proceso es diferente. Seleccionarán los 3 puntos que aparecen en su pantalla. Luego seleccionarán interpretación de lenguajes. Después seleccionarán español, una vez más silenciar el audio original. Y cuando han acabado, arriba de su pantalla hacia la derecha aparecerá un botón que dice listo o done. Y mi nombre es Emilia, un gusto servirles y estoy representando Linguistic Interpreting and Translation. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Amelia, and thank you for providing translation. If you need translation, you can see Amelia in the back there. I want to remind the MCs and the candidates that tonight the entire event will be translated, and to please speak a little slower maybe than normal to make sure that everything can be translated for our audience.
Vamos a estar transmitiendo y traduciendo simultáneamente. Solo les pedimos por favor que cuando hablen un poco más lento de lo normal para que la traductora pueda interpretar o traducir bien lo que están diciendo y todos los de habla hispana puedan entender todo.
So we're going to do introductions right now. My name is Simone Cranston Rhodes. I am an SEIU 521 community and political organizer. I will be the MC for tonight, and Olga is my MC co-host.
My name is Olga Loza. I'm the community organizer for DHF right here in Fresno County, and I'm the organizer from Sanger, Parlier, and area of Fresno County. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you all. We're going to go over our town hall rules for tonight. So tonight, this is a 501c3 space, which means we are not going to speak about endorsements or partisan politics. So please abide by that while you join us here this evening. Second is always be kind and respectful. I think that's a pretty easy one to follow. And third is please be respectful of time restraints. We will have Gerardo being our timekeeper for tonight. He will signal to you when you have 60 and 30 seconds. Thank you, Gerardo. We don't expect you to cut off in the middle of your sentence when the time is up, but wrap up what you're saying and be respectful of the time.
We are going to thank all the coalition partners, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, CNC, MCAC, PICE, California Environmental Water Education Fund, Cultiva la Salud, Planned Parenthood, the SEIU 521, Sierra Club, Radio Bilingüe, CAEA. Thank you for supporting all this candidate forum. And we expect to continue supporting this kind of things to educate our communities.
Yes, thank you to all of our partners for partnering with us, helping provide food, providing the space, and reaching out to all the candidates. That being said, we want to thank the candidates who are joining us here tonight. We have Eliseo Gamino, thank you. Darren Miller. And Jose Ramirez, who we will be speaking with shortly. Our other candidate who said was joining us tonight, Michelle, is not joining us. She sent us an email about 20 minutes before this started. So we'll leave an empty seat there in her honor.
Okay, the candidate opening remark is 2 minutes each one. The rapid fire question is 7 minutes. It's going to be like signs with green, red signs. The questions are going to be 1 minute to each question for each candidate. The closing remarks are 2 minutes for each one.
So we're going to begin now with opening remarks. We will alternate between who starts. So if Eliseo goes first the first time, well, looks like we're going to have Darren go first the first time for opening remarks. All right, so Darren, you have 2 minutes. It starts now.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'll do my little bit of Spanish. Buenos tardes a todo. That's about the extent of my Spanish, so I'll stop there. Dr. Darren Miller, candidate for Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. I am a Fresno boy, Fresno native, born and raised in Fresno, grew up here, educated in Fresno, graduated from Roosevelt High School. After graduating from Roosevelt High School, I went on and was able to earn 5 college degrees. So I have an AA from Merced, a BA from Fresno State, I have 2 master's degrees, one from Fresno Pacific, one from National University, and I have my doctoral degree in education from Fresno State University. Professionally, I've spent the last 33 years working in K-12 education here in the Fresno metropolitan area. Worked at Fresno Unified, Clovis Unified, spent 15 years in Madera. Currently, I'm working in Central Unified. All of those positions were as a counselor, vice principal, principal, and director. I've also worked as an adjunct counselor at Fresno City College, as well as an adjunct instructor. Politically, I serve right now as a delegate for the 31st Assembly District, Dr. Joaquin Arambula's area. You guys are not able to hear me? Oh, I didn't even put my teacher's voice on. Okay, so anyway, Assembly District 31, I'm a delegate with that. I previously served on the Fresno County Board of Education for 2 years, 2019 and 2020. And so I am running for this position to be able to use my years of experience, personally, professionally, as well as my political background for the benefit of education for all of the students throughout the whole county.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, there we go. Thank you so much, Darren. Eliseo is up next, and your time begins now.
Yes, my name is Eliseo Gamino. I'm a proud student here from the Valley and proud of migrant parents. My father came to the United States in search for the American dream through the Bracero program. Luckily, most of my family were able to get a college degree and move on as we reach and work towards the American dream. Professional jobs that I've held that prepared me for this job has been Associate Dean of a community college here in the Valley. I've been a director of a special program that works with migrant students and recruit students to the university first generation. In addition, I've been teaching over 20 years. Last year, I was selected as Teacher of the Year, dual immersion program. I hold a bilingual, bicultural credential, teaching credential, and professional clear, as well as an administrative clear credential. I understand the K-14 system. I worked for Fresno Unified in many rural school districts. I know the issues, and it's about time that someone like myself comes in that represents teachers, parents, and the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you both for your introductions, opening remarks. We are going to go to our first question now. I'm going to call up Sadie from Pique, who's going to ask the first question.
Good evening, everybody. The first question is, apologize. Okay. With recent big enrollment drops across the Central Valley, the fear of school closures in small communities is increasing. What strategic plans and intentional community engagement will be made to support the educational future of our students? Thank you.
Thank you, Sadie. Everybody will have a minute to answer this question. And we are going to start this time with Eliseo.
Yes, the pandemic brought up a lot of issues to light. There's no equal access to internet, especially in rural areas as well as urban. I will work to make sure every child has the right equipment and a computer that works, because I know in many school districts here in Fresno Unified or in Fresno County have a lot of computers that are outdated and spin its wheels more than the big rigs traveling on I-5 or 99. That's a big problem, and it's about equity. I will promote inclusion, equity, and academic success for all students. But the biggest losers, besides those that missed out, are the special needs students. We failed them, and we need to own it and be better at it.
Thank you, Eliseo. Darren?
Well, lowering school enrollments affects individual school districts in the pocketbook. As you guys know, that the way that school districts are able to operate is by the number of students that are enrolled in a particular school district. And if you have students that are no longer there, the school districts themselves are going to have to go through some budgetary reallocations, rethought processes about how they're going to allocate their resources. In the county superintendent's office, that is one of our main functions, would be one of our main functions, is one of our main functions, is to make sure the school districts meet their financial obligations based off of enrollments that are increasing and things that they can do extra, as well as the failing school or enrollments going down. And it's about planning. Those of you who are not familiar with school education, everything is done on budgetary items, and when you have a loss of students, you are able to revert back to 2 years budgetary matters to be able to plan going forward. At some point in time, you're going to have to do some adjustments, and that's the role of the county superintendent's office, is to assist with that.
Thank you. We are continuing with the second question. And the second question is, how can the school board of trustees support short-term hear me? Okay, I'm gonna start again. I'm sorry. How can the school board of trustees support short-term or long-term climate change goals, such as electrified buses in rural communities, and adopt other climate mitigations policies?
Great question. That's a great question, because we all have to understand that our environment, our climate is being impacted negatively. The good thing about educational settings, those of you who have driven by a school, most of the schools now are putting up the awnings, I don't know what the official title of, over their parking lots, which are solar panels. And now school districts are able to take advantage of what goes on with the solar energy process. One of the other things I think that we have to do is have to take a look at how we're utilizing space. Fresno City College, here in the valley, we always look at space going wide. Here, we need to start looking up. And that's another way that we can be able to conserve energy, conserve what we're doing as far as electricity and those other items. So it's a matter of rethinking and being smarter about how school districts are going to engage the climate crisis.
Eliseo?
Yes, as your superintendent of Fresno County, I will be working. college, higher institutions of higher learning presidents, chancellors, so that we can all work and promote a green movement. There's a big problem in Fresno with respiratory issues. I have a child that has pre-existing conditions, and the quality air is a big problem. As your superintendent, I will make sure that we promote green, but what concerns me most is the poor SBAC scores, especially in math. We are not putting prepared teachers to teach these kids the next level standards in math. And we're failing. We need to make sure that we don't sweep that under the carpet.
Thank you to both of you. Our next question is going to be asked by Brenda. Brenda?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Brenda Rojas. Los estudiantes nativos americanos enfrentan altos niveles de suspensión y expulsiones. ¿Cuáles son los planes para lidiar con este problema?
Good afternoon, my name is Brenda, and my question is, Native American students face high levels of suspension and expulsions. What are your plans to deal with this?
We will start with Eliseo this time.
Yes, the law just changed recently to make sure that suspension is not necessarily an option, and actually, it's not our solution. We need to educate our kids. There's a famous saying that says, if we don't educate the children, then if we educate the children, we don't have to punish adults. And we need to go back, and we need to make sure that since grade school, we're educating the children, because we need to produce productive citizens. Citizens that can be self-sufficient and work towards the American dream, to be independent and be able to earn a good paying job. If we're not preparing our kids in math, and I'll tell you, well, I'll be the first one to tell you, we're failing in math. And we need to make sure that we work with other leaders to make sure we produce good quality teachers in math, because we're not going to have engineers, doctors, that we can't teach them in this area. Writing and reading. If they do not read by third grade or fourth grade level, they're in the pipeline to prison or the juvenile system.
I will just remind our candidates once again, I know that there's time restraints, but we also want to consider that we have a translator here too, so try not to speak too quickly. Darren?
Two-pronged approach. It's a little bit different. Expulsions and suspensions are given by school administrators. And we have got to do a better job of the people who are in charge and who are looking over our babies. We have people right now who are working in administration that this is their job. Education is not a passion for them. Out of the county superintendent's office, we have the ability to create teachers as well as administrators. That's one of the things that I would push for, making sure that I have culturally sensitive, culturally knowledgeable folks that are working with our students on an individual basis. Secondly, we got to make sure that our kids are involved in school. A lot of kids have very, very creative minds, and when they don't have opportunities, arts, music, sports programs, after-school programs, clubs at schools, their minds are going to get attracted to the deviant side. And so I would work, as I've been doing for the last 33 years, to make sure that schools are challenging their students with on-campus and after-school types of programming to keep them busy, keep their idle minds busy.
Thank you very much for that response. All right, our next question is coming from Socorro at Planned Parenthood. Thank you, Socorro.
So the question is, as Fresno County has a go to eventually have a school-based health center at every school so that our community can access health care, do you support us having reproductive health services as part of those health centers?
No, that will be a minute response, and we will start with Darren this time.
Yes, yes, and more yeses. But the other part that I would want to do is I would want to make sure that those types of programs, which have been in school districts before, are not tied solely to grant monies. Because what happens with grant monies is that when the grant goes away, those programs go away. And so I would want to be working with the 32 individual school districts with making sure that those types of programs are part of their baseline budgets. so that it does not go away when we're in lean times and in lean years, or that the grant goes away. Far too many times, there are great, tremendous programs that are happening around the county, always tied to monies that are on a three-year window or a 5-year window. That type of stuff needs to be grounded into school districts' mainline budgets so there's some sustainability with it. So that's what I would be working towards.
Thank you. Yes, I would support all the health services, but most important, keep the confidentiality of all our students, especially minors. I would go to the extent that a lot of parents are concerned that they're not getting the adequate curriculum and sex education, where our kids are being taught by big telecom companies that aggressively and in a predatory way are really presenting information that our kids cannot handle. And it's important to have the counseling staff, the medical and services on our campus so that they are not afraid to inquire about those services, especially as they grow up. I don't want the internet to teach my kids about sexuality or to prey on the most vulnerable kids through the phone, their tablets, and we don't want to lose our kids. We need to get them the right curriculum that addresses the issues that we're facing today. And so I don't think we're at that level.
Thank you both for your response. Our final open-ended question, which you have a minute to respond to, will be asked from Yesenia from CARA. Are you here, Yesenia? All right, I thought she was going to be here tonight. I'll ask the question in that case. Yesenia from CARA asks, how will you protect students' rights to access confidential reproductive health services during school time? And we will start with Eliseo.
It's easy. We need to make sure that that's a priority for our kids, that our kids are not intimidated to come and ask about reproductive information or any other type of information as well. We need to make sure that the schools remain safe environment and that the kids have the appropriate curriculum. A lot of times kids get in trouble because we don't educate them. For example, in sexuality, the curriculum is outdated, like I said before, and so these telecom companies are preying on our kids. I will make sure that we are putting a comprehensive education course for our kids and so that they don't learn this information in the streets. It wears me as a father, as an educator, and as a trustee of a school. And so I always promoting confidentiality and having those services. Thank you.
I think one of the biggest things that has to happen, as Eliasel just mentioned, is schools have to be safe spaces for our kids. They have to be comfortable. They have to feel comfortable coming to school, and when they're there, they have to be able to feel comfortable being able to transition whatever it is. Being one of the toughest things, being a school counselor, is having a conversation with a 16-year-old female student who is pregnant and does not know how to tell her parents. You can think of all the tough things that you've done in your life, but how, first of all, I'm thankful that the young lady felt comfortable coming to speak to me about this and having enough confidence in me to be able to come up with a plan of action and be able to work with her and her parents. And so that's what schools need to be, and that comes from the leadership. If you don't have strong leaders on your campus, people who are there to advocate for your students, no matter what it is, then you're going to have a failed system. And so I would be advocating, in particular with the social and emotional side of what goes on with education, to make sure the kids are safe, feel safe coming to school.
Thank you for your responses. At this time, we're going to move into our rapid fire questions. You will see on the table there that you have green and red signs. So the way that this will work is we will ask questions and you will raise the green sign if you agree or want to say yes. And you'll raise the red sign if you disagree with the question. So we have about 10 questions we're going to go through, and we don't need to use mics. We'll just raise, our signs. So the first question is going to be, will you provide leadership on climate change? Thank you. Are you in support of California Living Wage Act to raise the minimum wage to $18 an hour? Thank you. Do you support or oppose privatization of public sector workers? Do you agree that public sector workers should be privatized or no? Thank you. Do you support the Electrify California bill? Thank you. Do you support buying local produce for schools? Thank you. Do you support decarbonizations of schools and public buildings? Thank you. Do you support the Freedom from Hate Crimes Act? Thank you. Do you support the sanctuary status of counties and schools? Do you believe inmates are entitled to humane treatment inside county jails? And our final question, do you support health care for all? Thank you, both. And we will now move on to our closing remarks for this segment. We will start with Eliseo. You have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
I'm asking you, there's an urgency that we need to prepare our children. Our children are at risk. We have a lot of societal problems, homelessness, school kids dropping out. And the problem with drugs, fentanyl, and all those problems, 99% of those problems will be solved if we educate children. If we educate children, we won't have to incarcerate adults. And that's our responsibility. I'm the type of leader, again, that I'm guided by servant leadership. When the mothers and families of here in California, one of the poorest communities and unemployed here in the county, call upon me to support them for a high school, I was there. That's the kind of leader I'm going to be. When there's an issue, you go and you listen. When you vote for Eliseo Gamino, you're going to talk to someone who's going to first listen, educate about the problems, but more than that, take action. And if you see the videos that I posted about equal pay, a lot of folks that have, it should be a no-brainer for the Fresno County to make sure that they pay a female the same wage that they would pay a male. And that did not happen with Aline Risto. I have 3 daughters, and that's not going to be a problem with me. A leader needs to face and be able to connect with the community and feel I'm connected to the community throughout Fresno County. And I will finalize with saying this. Drugs do not kill. Ignorance. We need to kill ignorance. And when you have poor math and reading scores, we're populating the 2,000 new cases in Fresno County are filed with our law enforcement, sheriff's department, and we need to stop that because we need to focus educating the children.
Okay. First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who came, spent this time with us this evening, those of you who are listening and watching us on there. This is how we change education. This is how we positively impact the future of our kids. Real quick, about the race. This is the first time this is an open race since 1990. Mijas won, served 3 terms, willed it to Larry Powell. Larry Powell served 3 terms, willed it to Jim Uvino. And Jim Uvino now, although he's not willing it to anybody, he's attempting to do that. This is an opportunity for those of us in this room who think like I do, want our kids to be educated in the same type of frame. This is an opportunity for us to make a change and impact what goes on in education. This is easy for us. You guys have the hard part. You have to select who you believe is going to be the best person in your interest moving forward in education. And so I encourage everyone, if you want to learn more about me, please go to my website. It's www.electdarren.com, so you can learn more about my platform and what I'm doing. And I'm asking you, those of you here, those of you who are listening, to elect me, to allow me to do what I've been doing for this county for the last 33 years. Educate our kids, change education, and making sure that our underrepresented populations are represented moving forward. So again, thank you. Muchísimos.
Let's give it up for the candidates. Thank you both for attending and speaking with our audience. We really appreciate it. We are only asking questions that are on the agenda right now. And so thank you to the candidates. We're going to take a quick pause as we switch gears to our supervisor race. Hi, everyone. Could I get everyone's attention, please? Thank you. If we could ask the candidates for Superintendent of Schools to stick with us. We would like to have questions from the audience at the end of our program. So, Darren Miller and Eliseo, if you guys could stay with us, that would be great, and we can take questions from the audience at the end of our program. Darren, we are asking the candidates to stay with us, and at the end of our program, we'll take questions from the audience. Thank you. All right, we are moving on to our next segment of the agenda, and we are going to be hearing from a candidate for Board of Supervisors, District 4. We are going to do the same format that we did for our Superintendent of Schools. The candidate will have 2 minutes to open. You will respond to open-ended questions. Then we will do rapid fire, and then you'll have closing statements. And then once the program is ended, we can take some questions from the audience. All right, so we're going to start with our 2-minute opener from our candidate, Jose Ramirez.
Good evening, buenas noches. My name is Jose Ramirez. I'm running for the board, well, my opening statement, you guys already know that I'm running for the Board of Supervisors. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country when I was 3 years old. My mother actually left me in Mexico because my dad died, unfortunately, and that's one of the reasons why she came to the U.S. So at the age of 3, then she asked for me to come over. I grew up in District 4. I went to church in Fowler, and I did a lot of my shopping in Selma. I went to Monroe Elementary School. I also went to Fresno State. At Fresno State, I got my bachelor's degree from the School of Engineering. I got a master's degree in public administration with a city and regional planning emphasis. I became a city before I became a city manager, actually I worked for the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, and I worked there for 5 years. After that, I became the city manager of Orange Cove for 3 years. Then I became the city manager of Fireball for 8 years, and a little bit more than about 9 years, I became the city manager of Livingston. I'm running for the districts because I know how to get government to work for the people. I have in my toolbox to make a difference, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Thank you very much. We are going to start with our open-ended questions. You will have 1 minute to respond. Our first question is on environmental issues. Do you believe Fresno County should end our dependence on fossil fuels? including oil, gas, and extractive practices? Why or why not?
Absolutely. Look, we are in a basin that we can't even meet our emission goals. You know, the Air Pollution Control District continuously says that we have this plan, but a lot of the, especially the rural communities, like Eliseo was mentioning a little while ago, are having asthma, you know, low birth rates, et cetera. We have a lot of property that we can repurpose, and a lot of that has already been done, you know, through solar. But we should also look at electric aviation. I think that electric aviation is a great opportunity for us here. They talk about fracking. My gosh, you know, we can't do that. We can't continue to contaminate our groundwater. Number two, if we do any oil extraction, it's all sent it to the Bay Area, but that doesn't mean that those effects or the refining is not going to affect us here. So yes, I think that we should look more into green opportunities.
The second question is, do you believe an employee who worked one full job in the community they live in should be able to afford to live and retire there?
Absolutely. I believe in home ownership. Home ownership is how we reduce the wealth gap. And what's happening currently right now is that you're starting to see the faces change in terms of who become homeless. You know, fixed income mothers, farm workers, and also the elderly. That's unacceptable. And the other thing that's going on is that you're starting to see a lot of those folks, because they can't live in those communities that they grew up in, they're having to try to find homes here in the bigger urban areas. It's much more expensive, and it's causing greenhouse gases. So we have to figure out how we can turn that corner and make sure that we have homes that the working people can afford. Sorry, I'm going so fast. I apologize.
We do have translation here, so if you could slow down a little bit, and I know we have time restraints too. We have a couple questions from the audience now. I first would like to ask Lupe up to ask her question. Oh.
The citizens of Sangre have been struggling with maintaining clean water. How do you plan to improve the quality of water, not just for our city, but for the rural towns?
Yes. That's a coupled question. Number one, you have to have quantity. It is expected that in the next few years, 50% of the wells are going to go dry. So we have to address that issue. The second is the affordability and keeping it clean. So we have to look at, the county has some resources that can be used. We should look at bonding. We should look at going after more state and federal funding. We need to do more studies to figure out what it is that we can do to lower those costs. Many times what happens in these different communities is that the infrastructure keeps being neglected, and when you address issues on an emergency basis, the cost doesn't go down, the cost goes up. So we have to make sure that we can help these different communities plan their capital improvement program far in advance so that we can do planning and lower the cost.
Thank you, Jose. Our next question is coming from Olga Amaya.
Hello.
Buenas tardes.
Hola,
Good
buenas
evening.
tardes.
I live in a small community. How or what plans do you have or how would you revitalize rural towns?
I've been a city manager for 20 years, so I certainly know the different intricacies of these different communities. I've actually done some downtown revitalization. There's many ways to do it. One of them was through art, creating an art district, to have murals, to have larger-than-life cutouts, so that we can get folks to come to the center of town. Because if you have these out fringes developments, they're not going to come to your downtown. So you have to make sure that it's a destination. So my plan is to give different city managers and community development directors ideas, and then identify grants and resources, and even foundations, because a lot of foundations give money. So that is one approach.
Thank you. Our next question is going to come from CNC and Imelda. Would you like to come up?
Buenas tardes, señor Ramírez.
Hola, Imelda.
¿Cuál es su plan para abordar la actual crisis de vivienda, incluyendo vivienda asequible, falta de vivienda y derechos de los inquilinos? Señor Ramírez, usted como hispano, nuestra comunidad ha sido muy dañada después de lo de la pandemia. Vivimos amontonados muchas familias. ¿Cuál es su plan? ¿Usted qué tiene para mejorar siendo hispano? Es mucha esperanza para nosotros el hecho de que no se le olvide que así estamos viviendo muchas personas. Entonces, mientras otros candidatos están debatiendo que no ayudemos a los homeless o algo así, ¿cuál es el plan de usted? Porque nosotros necesitamos ayuda.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Hold on real quick, Jose.
Sorry, I'm triggered.
My name is Imelda Cruz, and my question is, what is your plan to address the current housing crisis, including affordable housing, homelessness, and renters' rights? As you, as a Hispanic person, you know that our community has been very damaged, especially after this pandemic. So please don't forget that a lot of us are still living, all together in one home. And while all these other politicians are discussing about homelessness, people are forgetting about us. So what is your plan?
Sí, muchas gracias, Imelda. Mire, esto de, should I just say it in English or Spanish? Okay, all right. All right, don't start the time yet. Trying to answer this huge question in 1 minute is tough, but here we go. Okay. So the first thing is, I want you to know that I have been participating in this space for a long, long time. So we have to tackle it. It's a multi-pronged approach. We have to continue to talk to our legislators. Number two, we have to make sure that we work with our CBOs, which are called CHOTOs. These are nonprofit organizations like self-help housing, like visionary housing. And then we also, the different banking institutions, we need to make sure that for those people that are undocumented, that they have access to funding, not at a really high absorbing rate. And then the down payment has to be lower. But then the other problem that we currently have is that there's not enough homes to buy, and yet the prices are skyrocketing. But we have to work with the different communities and look at their housing elements. It's a little complicated housing elements, but if they don't have those in place, then it's very difficult for them to be able to build. There's enough property, but it's difficult. So there's a lot of issues we have to do. I promise to be vigilant in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Imelda, and thank you, Jose. Our next question is from Planned Parenthood, and I'm going to ask Socorro to return.
Okay, so health is definitely an issue. Access to health is a huge issue given the geographic breakup of our county. Would you, as a Board of Supervisor for District 4, support funding for a mobile unit that is inclusive of reproductive health services?
Absolutely. You got to remember that this is a county. In my district, you're talking about 9 cities and about 10 unincorporated areas. And the distance to go from Fresno out to those areas, I mean, it's hard. Transit is a huge issue. So we have to go to the people, not people come to us. So I support that. So we have to not have just one, but have multiple, because the health, you can't play with people's health. So it's important that we get to them quickly and effectively. I also believe that we need to identify and partner with other organizations that have resources from the outside.
Thank you, Socorro and Jose, for answering that. We have our final open-ended question at this time. Do you support reinstituting Measure C? What changes do you think are needed? What changes do you think could be made to Measure C to help counter climate change? How could these funds be used to make it more public access oriented versus just investing in highways and roads?
Yes, I support counties that are self-help counties like Measure C or Measure V in Merced. These are very important because it allows us to leverage local funds with other funds that are going on around the state. However, right now, what's going on in Fresno is that they're not allowing enough public participation, civic engagement. If you're not have participation and you're not listening to the people that are really being affected, that is a problem. So we need to make sure to open that up. I believe that we should move a lot of the funding for curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. There's a lot of these unincorporated areas that do not have sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. So I think that identifying a segment for that funding, that way it doesn't all go into highways and fixing a lot of the roads. So it's tough to, yes.
Thank you,
You
Jose.
cut me off, so I'm good.
All right. Thank you so much for addressing those questions. We are now going to move into our rapid fire segment. You'll see in front of you the green and red signs. We don't need a mic for this segment. So we have roughly 10 questions that we'll be asking you. If you support or agree, hold up the green. If you oppose, hold up the red. All right, so we're going to begin now. Will you provide leadership on climate change? Are you in support of the California Living Wage Act to increase living wage to $18 an hour? All right. Do you support or oppose the privatization of public sector workers? Do you support the Electrify California bill? Do you support decarbonizing schools and public buildings? Do you support the Freedom from Hate Crimes Act? Do you support sanctuary status for county and schools? Do you believe inmates are entitled to humane treatment inside county jails? And our final question, do you support health care for all? Great, thank you. We're going to do questions at the very end. Your final segment is your closing remarks, which you have 2 minutes for. After the closing remarks, we will allocate a few minutes for questions and answers with all the candidates. Jose, you can begin.
Yes. There's a great opportunity for us, for we to win in this district, okay? I am committed. I'm committed all the way. I'm living off my savings, and I do not want to leave anything in the gas tank. And this is going to require all of us, because I think it's time that the person who represents District 4 listens to the people, does not bellow people, does not bully people, doesn't roll eyes. We can disagree, but we have to respect. Without that, then why do we need somebody like that in representing us? So there is a great opportunity for us to win this district. We've been able to raise a little over $100,000 to date because of your help. We've been able to get a lot of endorsements, not just here in the Valley, but outside the area. People ask me, well, what's the importance of these people outside the area? That shows that this individual that you see in front of you has these relationships, has been working on a number of different community advocacy stuff. I've done a lot of things as a city manager, but don't put that aside for a moment now. I want you guys to know that what is people doing outside of their work where you're not getting paid, okay? We need to tackle all these different issues. We have so many enormous challenges here in Fresno County. It's hard to wrap around. However, when you provide public participation, you listen to folks, whether you agree or not, and you provide the space for that to happen, we can change anything. We can jump over any obstacle. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and look forward to more questions.
Thank you so much, Jose. And we want to call up the other candidates, and we're going to do some questions and answers from the audience. Please, when you come up, say your name. Let us know which candidate you're addressing or candidates, and then ask your question. So if you could line up behind Gloria here, wave your hand, Gloria. So if you have a question, we're only going to take a few from the audience, so please line up here. All right.
This is for Jose.
All right.
One of my biggest pet peeves,
Hi, by the way.
hola, is the Williamson MAC. I know that some of the counties in the north side have done audits on the Williamson parcels, and the counties have recovered millions of dollars. Now, I don't know if people know what the Williamson MAC is.
I can tell him.
Okay, good. So do you support an audit of the Williamson MAC, and how would you have it done, knowing that the Old Boy Network is against it?
Yes.
And Jose, we'll give 1 minute for each question from the audience, so go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, this is why this is important, because folks like her bring up issues, and she knows about this for sure, so she knows what's going on. So you didn't start my time yet, did you? Oh, okay. Can we start over? No? No, okay. So anyways, the Williamson Act, I do support it. The challenge, of course, is going to make sure, and I'm a skilled negotiator, I'm going to do everything I can to try to get, we have to count to 3. Okay, 1 vote is not enough. We need 3. So I look forward to working with those individuals and know specifically the inside out of these issues, and we'll talk some more.
Thank you, Jose. Is there anyone else who has a question? Right here.
Oh, for me.
So my name is Roman Raintree. My question is actually for all of you. It's specific though, since you're running for Board of Supervisor. Are you in favor of renaming S Valley? And for the other 2, since you're Board of Superintendents, are you in favor of renaming elementary schools like Polk Elementary, where young Mr. Malachi Suarez is a 5th grader trying to get that school renamed for the past year? Are you gentlemen in favor of renaming pejorative names or representation here in our county?
If we're going to be sensitive in...
So let's give everybody 30 seconds since it's for all candidates.
If we're going to be sensitive, inclusive, and we value diversity, we need to listen to the folks that are out there that want this. And I do support it. Thank you.
Yes, I myself, we need to be sensitive, like Mr. Ramirez said. And a lot of times, we want to be the change that we want to see. And my motto is, ya estuvo suave, enough, that's it. We need to take action. We have to make sure that the voices of our mothers, our families, our residents of Fresno County speak up. And we need to take action because we're here to serve you. We're not here to serve ourselves. And as a trustee and elected official, I've always been a good listener to the community, and I'm not afraid to take action. It takes courage, and we need to speak out.
Yes, is it Rainwater? You said Raintree? Raintree, yes, I do support that also. But I also know that there are also processes that need to go through in order to have name changes. And inside of the school district, which was going on with Central Unified, I, as a county superintendent, can't force any school district to change any of their property names or any of those type of things. But I would be supportive of the process, making sure that those who are voicing their opposition to that and their desire for change, make sure they have the right and correct information to be able to go forward. But yes, I support it, but we need to make sure we're going through the processes.
Thank you, candidates. Our next question.
Hello, my name is Guadalupe Valladares, and I'm from the Senga area. Decades ago, we used to have a hospital there, but it's not there anymore. It got condemned. We want to use support to bring in monies from the state and county to build a new hospital for us. Can you support that?
Who are you addressing the question to?
Me.
To Jose. Okay, 1 minute for Jose.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I do support it. I mean, look, there's rooftops. Rooftop is really what pushes a lot of these things. We got to look at the numbers. However, that is a goal that I'm more than happy to work with the residents of Sanger. In the meantime, though, we should look at making sure you guys have robust clinics out there, because believe it or not, a lot of these clinics, especially with the advance in technology and the fact that we're going to make sure that broadband is deployed in high-speed internet all over the place, so that you guys have access to telehealth care and all of those components. But I do support it. I think that we just need to keep that and plan for it.
Thank you.
My name is Robert McCloskey. I live in District 5, and thank you for supporting a name change in S Valley. We really want that up there. I had two questions, one for the school superintendent candidates and one for Mr. Ramirez. I'll start with Mr. Ramirez, and that is the federal government recently allocated $192 million American Rescue Plan Act funds allocated for the county. These funds are intended for underserved communities. What would be your priorities on that funding? Because the current board is not doing what should be done, I don't think.
Yes.
Should I ask my other question?
Yes. It was brought up a little while ago. They were talking about not their infrastructure and water quality being such an issue, and now we have to contend with the quantity of water. I believe in that use taxpayer money, that it can be spread out and everybody benefits. Those are the areas that we should focus. So for me, it would be water, sewer, infrastructure, and any other type of infrastructure that touches everybody, whether you live in the city or you're in the surrounding areas. So I would use a lot of that money for that purpose.
Okay, 30 seconds for Eliseo.
Yes, the school receive a lot of COVID money, just like the mothers from Huron. They're tired of their kids being bused for years. We had one female that had a male student sleeping on their shoulder. No mother or father should have to hear these stories and complaints from their children. They got $36 million. They need to create a high school there. Carruthers, Layton, Riverdale, 9 miles apart with lower population, they have their high school. Why can't Huron have it? And we need to advocate for the whole county.
And to make it fair, let's give Darren 30 seconds if you want it to address. Okay. All right. I think to make it fair, if you could go to the end of the line for your second question. All right. So one question. If you have a second, you'll have to go back to the end of the line. So you got to pick one, and then you can go to the back of the line. Okay. We're going to have a Spanish question, so just make sure we translate. Please say your name and who you're addressing.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas.
Esta pregunta es para el señor Eliseo y Darren. Mi pregunta es para ustedes de que para el distrito, ¿verdad? Aquí en Fresno tenemos una población grande ya de los estudiantes indígenas. ¿Qué piensan ustedes hacer al respecto a eso? La segunda pregunta también es de entre socios y escuela y padres. Eso como que se... Nomás que quería, esa era junto. Yeah. Entonces, esa pregunta, ¿verdad? De que entre la escuela y los padres que éramos socios, ahorita no hay esa ya conexión, donde para mí, si ustedes llegaran a ganar, ¿qué harían ustedes para que nosotros como padres nos conectáramos con la escuela otra vez? Gracias.
Thank you. And hold on.
Good afternoon. My question is for Eliseo. My question is for the district here in Fresno, we have a very high population of indigenous students. What do you plan to do in respect to that? Do you want me to translate the second question or wait until they're done? And then the second question is that there used to be collaboration between the school and parents. We used to work together and now there's no connection. So what do you plan to do about that?
Thank you. A minute for Eliseo and Darren.
First of all, we need to listen to all families, especially diversity. I got a support from Elsa Mejia. She's a Mixteca leader, and she writes to me. She sent a donation and wrote to me with a message for Fresno in the Central Valley, where all children can get a fair shot. So we're going to advocate for all our children so they can accomplish the American dream. We're failing the kids, especially during the pandemic and prior to the pandemic. We need to face the fact that we could have done a lot more. Supervisors, even in the county, were not spending those millions of dollars for rent help, electricity. I personally called and was denied. So we have to hold all elected officials accountable. And as a trustee now, I went and talked to the supervisors. I'm not going to wait to get elected. I'm working for the communities now. Ya estuvo suave. Enough is enough.
I think one of the first things that has to happen is we have to recognize that although a person comes from Mexico or from our Latin countries, they don't all speak Spanish. And I think that's one of the things that we can do in our offices, that when people come through the door, is not make those assumptions that because they're of Latino descent that they speak Spanish. You've got to understand that some of the indigenous languages there are not written. They're verbal languages, they're dialects. And so just having that type of recognition is one of the things I've done in my administrative duties to make sure that we fill in those gaps. Mi español es muy mal, but I try. You know, I try, and I do that through the recognition. The second question you had was about parent involvement. Goes back to my point about leadership. We have schools right now who don't have leaders that are committed to doing that. That's where that is. Those administrators, those superintendents have got to create environments that are welcoming to all of our parents, no matter where they come from, what their backgrounds are, what their thought processes are. And that's what I would be supporting.
Thank you. Please state your name and who you're addressing your question to.
Norma Sandoval, I'm the city parlier and address it to Jose. My question is, rural areas, they have issue with transportation, like migrant farmers that some parents don't drive, and they have issues like taking kids to appointments, groceries. How do you plan to fix like transportations in those areas?
Yes. We need to take advantage. There's a lot of subsidies out there for just electric vehicles, van pools. There has to be more dial-a-rides. And we also should look at what I really believe in, which is passenger rail service, especially those who go by that has a railroad track, you know, that we can look at some innovative ways. But I want to go back to electric aviation. If you guys do a little bit of Google searching on this topic, you'll see what I mean. Because the avgas is so expensive that now these days, especially those little communities that have an airport, we can use a little airports to be like air taxis to take people from that point into the bigger cities and then bigger ones. Because keep in mind that 9 passengers, you don't need a DHS. And so I think that's a great opportunity.
Come up closer, Ron.
1 minute.
Please state your name and who you're addressing your question to.
My name is Ron Martin, and I'm particularly addressing this to the supervisorial candidate. And when Ronald Reagan was elected, he cut the funding for public housing. And since that time, there's been a tremendous inadequacy of public housing. Now, it would take lots of money and many years to catch up on public housing. And in the meantime, would you favor the establishment of safe parking places for people to live in their vehicles, maybe RVs, in safety and health? Would you favor tiny homes, such as a Village of Hope, where tough sheds are put up, where people can just have a place to get out of the wind and the rain and lock a few of their possessions?
Absolutely. First of all, we have to think about humanity, and we have to make sure that we treat people with dignity. You know, a lot of these people don't want a handout; they just need some help. So that we can give them a stroke up. I think that a lot of the, for instance, the housing authority here I have to give them credit. They've done a lot of great work, but we need to think a little bit outside the box. Maybe we can do some private public partnerships and in order to increase the flow. And I also think that we need to be one voice when we talk about these different solutions. And I think that there's a lot of creativity in this room, and we have several other organizations out there that we can go to our elected officials at the federal and state level, so that, because keep in mind, the politics is down here where rubber meets the road. So what we want, if we're in unison, we can make it happen. So thank you for bringing that up.
Candidates, and thank you for your patience and staying and addressing questions. It looks like we have 2 more in line. Robert, did you still want to ask a question? So 3 more questions. Did you want to ask? So 4, and then we're cutting it at there, okay? All right. Can you please state your name and who you're addressing your question to?
Para los tres.
Buenas tardes, para terminar más pronto. ¿Es cierto de lo que dijo ahorita la señora sobre las viviendas? Todos los que son dueños de casa hacen como 10 aplicaciones para poder rentar un departamento o una casa. Que les cobran $35. Luego quieren que les paguen el primer mes. La gente no tiene para pagar $2,000 de renta. Entonces, prefieren tener las casas desocupadas o prefieren estar todas, y si es cierto que está toda la gente junta porque no tienen para pagar el depósito, el último mes de la renta, $1,000. Ya es cierto que hay organizaciones que le ayudan a uno, pero no es cierto, no ayudan. Nomás lo traen vueltas y vueltas y no les ayudan, y por eso la gente mejor desocupan las casas y están las casas desocupadas, y pues no es justo que les estén cobrando $35, $40 por cada aplicación. Hay casas que hacen hasta 10 aplicaciones. Van como 10 personas a llenar las aplicaciones y les cobran. Ok, yo digo, si no les van a rentar la casa, ¿por qué les tienen que cobrar la aplicación? Eso es una cosa que están haciendo muchas barbaridades, y pues a ver qué pueden hacer ustedes, porque esa es la pregunta para los tres, a ver qué. Bernardina Hernández.
What's your name?
Bernardina Hernández. Soy de Stenger.
Hello, my name is Bernardina Hernandez, and my question is for all three. And it's true what you just said about housing. All homeowners or people who want to rent have to do about 10 different applications, and each one of those applications is $35, and then they want first month's rents and then last month's rent. Do you prefer to have homes empty? And it's very true what they've been saying. People have to live together because they just don't have the money. And yes, there are organizations that give help, but they don't really help. They just keep putting you in circles. And I don't think that it's right that they're charging $35 for every application that is made. And if you want to rent your home, then why do you charge such a high amount? And again, application fee, first month's rent. And so I just want to know what you would do about that.
Okay, 30 seconds for each candidate. Thank you.
Muy buena pregunta. That was a very good question. The supervisors and city officials and all the officials receive countless amount of money to help suffering and struggling families. We did not issue those monies. We did not pay the electricity. We didn't pay the rent. We let our families of Fresno County down. It affects the schools because the children move and look elsewhere or bunch up in a home of a relative. That is not the way we should have spent those monies. They sat on that money and we failed them.
Oh, okay. Housing is not my lane, but how it affects what I do is there's kids in those houses, and so one of the things we can do from the school side of it is make sure we don't add to the problem. You've got parents who are trying to settle themselves down, and they're having difficulties at school sites because they don't have a birth certificate. They don't have their shot information. They don't have some other piece of paper, and we're not allowing kids to come in. So what we can do on the school side of it is making sure that the process for those children that are engaged in that household is as seamless as possible to be able to diminish some of the issues that goes on that the parents are going through.
This goes back to one of the points that I made earlier. You know, this is a supply and demand issue. They're going to be able to get away with whatever they want while there is a limited supply of homes. Let me just tell you, this is affecting everyone, even the middle class. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of folks that you know that actually has a great paying job and that is looking at, upgrading their home, and they can't. Why? Because they can't afford it. And what I heard the other day was that folks were paying $30,000, $40,000 over the asking price just to get the home. And yes, I think that these individuals are charging $35 for every application fee. I mean, the hardworking people, it's difficult to pay for this, and because there's not enough homes, it's very difficult.
Thank you, candidates. We have 3 more questions.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Juan Nunez. I live in Delray, and my question is for Mr. Ramirez. What are your thoughts on the redistricting from late last year, the results of that? Do you agree with them?
Well, the redistricting, no, I don't agree with it. The redistricting folks, okay, the Board of Supervisors, it's the status quo. They don't want to hear the community. There was lots of maps that were actually presented, and they went to their, and that's very unfortunate. But regardless, we're going to win this race. We're going to do everything that we can so that we can change the direction of where the county is going. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Again, my question is for the school board candidates in terms of curriculum. I think we definitely need more teaching of civics, and we need more teaching of civil rights issues. Labor union curriculum is weak. There are many areas that could be improved in terms of getting more citizens active in our communities. And I wanted to know what your ideas might be on that, as well as how can we reduce class size, which is one of the most significant issues for teachers, too many students. Thank you.
I 200% agree with you about the civics education, that it needs to come back. That was something, I believe it was Ronald in 1980, whenever it was, 84, whatever, that they stopped enforcing the civics education in school. I'm all for bringing that back. I would have to work with the individual 32 school districts across the county to make sure that is implemented back in there. But civics instruction is there, it's just not being enforced. And so I would want to make sure that I bring that back. Your second question was class sizes. Okay, so there's lots of different things out there dealing with class sizes. Class sizes is another district, individual district issue, but it has to do with financing. And what happens is with the grant monies, again, school districts will use the grant monies, lower class sizes, grant money goes away, now the class sizes bloom back up. So you would have to make sure that that's part of the foundational budgetary matters and finances on an annual basis to make sure that happens. And I would support that and work with school districts to make that happen.
Yes, we're failing our kids in the curriculum. The kids, we're not teaching them to read by third, fourth grade level. They're not going to be able to accomplish the American dream. This is a sense of urgency that our kids need a good quality education. Deben de heredar una buena educación nuestros hijos. Otherwise, we're going to have our children living in our basement and in the living room. Generation COVID-19, or however you want to call it, Generation SARS, is a great risk. We failed them. We failed our special needs kids. We need to be inclusive. We need to talk about equity, and that's the kind of leadership I'm going to provide as your superintendent of Fresno County. Enough's enough. Ya estuvo suave de estar silencio, let somebody else fix the issues. We need to fix it ourselves. And in regards with vocational training, yes, a lot of our kids need the career technical education, but dual enrollment, where kids can get a college degree while in high school, just like University High. Why can't our communities replicate that in our areas?
Thank you, candidates. This will be our final question. And after that, we are going to wrap up. Okay, Brenda is going to ask 2 questions.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Brenda Rojas. Esta pregunta es específicamente para el señor Eliseo. Ya estuvo suave, como usted dice, de que nos miren la cara a todos como padres de las escuelas o como público. Ya estuvo suave de que nos engañen, que cuando están sentados ahí en esa silla, hablan bonito y a la hora de dar la cara por nosotros como comunidad, no hacen nada. Creo que es justo que ustedes que están por un distrito de una escuela salgan a conocer a su gente, vayan a los pueblos pequeños. Esa es mi primera pregunta. ¿Qué van a hacer ustedes para parar la delincuencia que hay en las escuelas? Para que no nos tengan a nosotros como padres a ciegas, que no sabemos qué es lo que realmente está pasando dentro de las escuelas. Esa es mi primera pregunta.
Mira,
Sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Rojas, and my question is specifically for Eliseo. You say enough is enough, and I say the same thing. Enough is enough for them to look at our faces as parents of schools or even the public as you sit in those chairs and you speak so beautifully, but when it's time to act, you don't. And it's necessary for all of you to go out into those small communities. And what I want to know is, what are you going to do to stop the delinquencies in schools and actually inform us as parents of what's going on there and stop lying to us?
Mira, first of all, I'm not in agreement. I'm out there in the communities, and one of the poorest Huron. I'm not waiting to be elected. Right now, I'm a trustee, and I'm involved. I get engaged, and I'm here to listen. Y voy a dar la cara cuando haya un problema. Y yo mismo estoy diciendo que no estamos educando a nuestros jóvenes. We're not educating our kids. If we don't educate the children, they're going to be at risk of incarceration when they're adults. We're going to punish adults. It's that simple. We need to do our job to make sure that our educators have the tools, that our teachers have support. There's a lot of social emotional issues because of the pandemic, but important academic scores in Fresno County compared to Detroit and Cleveland, we need to put Fresno where it belongs. And I'm here to stand up for the families of Fresno. Yes, I say ya estuvo suave, enough is enough. That's why I'm running. I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself an advocate. And when there's an injustice like in Huron, I was there. You talk to the parents. And I'm not afraid to talk in front of people and commit myself what I believe. Equality.
Así me gusta que se defiendan.
Remember me
I
as
like
my-
it when you defend yourself.
Oh, well, I'm not going to defend myself, but I've been doing. In my role as an educator and as being involved in politics, you've seen me in San Joaquin. You've seen me in Huron. You've seen me in Fireball. You've seen me in Clovis, in Fresno. You've seen me at Latino events. You've seen me at African American events, Hmong events, women's events. I go where it is not always comfortable to be. And the reason I do that is because I want to know what's going on. I think I'm a pretty smart guy, but I don't know it all. And the best way that I'm going to get myself up to speed is by going out and listening. Here's what I'm doing for the school board race, or the superintendent's race. I've been to 11 of the 32 school districts now to the board meetings to introduce myself. Sierra at 5:30, Selma at 7. The other night I was in Tranquility at Golden Plains at 6 o'clock. I was in Central at 7. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go introduce myself. You're going to see my face. You're going to be able to ask me questions. When I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know. I'll get you an answer. But I'm going to be present in this role and capacity as superintendent.
Gracias. Bueno, mi última pregunta para el señor José. Vuelvo y digo lo mismo, hasta el día de hoy no conocemos quién nos representa a nosotros en Parlier. No conocemos al representante de Parlier hasta el día de hoy. Yo no sé quién es, no nos ha dado la cara, no sale a preocuparse por lo que necesita Parlier. Y espero, y le doy mi voto de confianza de que usted va a salir a conocer a su gente, de abogar por su gente, lo que necesita su gente. Esperamos y le damos la confianza a usted.
Sí.
And my last question is for Jose. My last question is for Jose, and I say the same thing over and over again. I still don't know who represents us in Parlier. I don't know who it is. To this day, he doesn't go out and worry about what Parlier needs. And I give you my vote of confidence that you will go and you will advocate for your people and you will go and see what they need. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Me gustaría expresarme en el idioma que usted y yo conocemos. And then you can translate for the rest, please. Mire, gracias por el vigor, por estar aquí, por comunicarse y expresarse con todo eso. La verdad que yo no me voy a olvidar de dónde vengo, yo sé a dónde voy. Eso que dice usted es muy importante. Yo una de las cosas que me estoy comprometiendo ahorita es de tener juntas en estas comunidades que no están incorporadas y estos municipios para poder escucharlos, ir a las reuniones, porque definitivamente se quedan en sus oficinas y se rascan el estómago. Yo no soy de esas personas. Estoy vestido así, pero me siento aún más a gusto ir a donde están ustedes y comer en el suelo. Yo voy a dejar que mis acciones hablen por mí, no mis palabras. Yo estoy haciendo esto para nosotros y para ustedes y luego para mí, porque yo creo que a mí me encanta ayudar a la gente, pero me encanta ayudar a la gente que se ayuden ellos mismos, que aprendan. Entonces, eso me comprometo con ustedes y gracias por la pregunta. Sorry.
Okay, great. I'm going to do my best to interpret that. That was a little long, so it might be a little bit more of a summary. But he says, I'd like to express myself in the language that you and I know. Thank you for expressing yourself, and I will not forget where I am coming from. One of the things that I am committing to is to going out and having meetings in these unincorporated communities, because the people who are in power, they stay in their offices and they scratch their bellies. And I am dressed like this, but I am down to go sit on the floor and eat with you. I am here for you and then myself, and I love to help my community by educating. Thank you. Was that good? Did I miss anything? Okay.
Y gracias, no esperaba más de usted porque eso lo pensé en mi mente y me leyó mi pensamiento. Creo que nuestra audiencia latina creo que se mereció que usted hablara español. Gracias.
Thank you. That's something I didn't expect anything less from you. I believe that our Latino audience really deserve for you to speak in Spanish. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the translation. I want to thank the candidates for joining us and for listening to all of the questions and addressing them. So let's give the candidates a big round of applause. And at this time, we're going to have a call to action.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. And I have one question. ¿Se puede? Sí, se puede. No se oye. ¿Se puede? Sí, se puede. All right. Okay, so I just have an announcement here. How many here, raise your hand if you went and talked to the Board of Supervisors and told them they needed to draw a fair map for the people of Fresno County. Woo! Let's have a big hand for everybody. Okay. All right, so the good news is that we went and we told them what was what, right? The bad news is they went ahead and did the stupid thing anyway, right? We all remember that. So, fortunately, our representative in Sacramento, Joaquin Arambula, has put a bill into the state legislature to make it so in the future, when the maps are going to be drawn for Fresno County, that they have to appoint an independent commission. It can't be just their golfing buddies, right? Which is what they did this time, right? So they have to appoint an independent commission. And if you look at all of the maps that were drawn for the state assembly and for the state senate, those maps are drawn to respect the Voting Rights Act, right? So that people, the minorities, which are really the majorities, get to have their voice heard. And this happened at the state level, but it did not happen at the county level, and it did not happen in most cases at the city and the school district level. But he's putting that in, and one of the things that's happened is that the county board of supervisors, they don't like his bill, and they want to talk about how terrible it is and it shouldn't pass. So we're going to need everybody on the 20th of April to help out, to call into the hearing that's going to be going on in Sacramento. So can we get your help for that day? Can you help out? Let me know. All right, so we're gonna, Olga, and we'll be contacting you and letting you know. She'll send you emails, texts, and help you to call in to that hearing and make sure that they hear from the real voice of Fresno and of the San Joaquin Valley. So thank you very much for coming, and Amy Arambula is gonna give us another announcement that we need to get these maps straightened out.
Thank you. So many of you know we were all involved in the Equitable Maps Coalition, and we fought really hard to try and get fair maps here in Fresno County before the Board of Supervisors, City Council. One of the places where we actually had some good success was State Center Community College District. Socorro was one of those that showed up to speak, and the board approved a good map. And so we're here to ask you all on the 21st of April, unfortunately, when the board of the State Center Community College District, which is Fresno City College, Madera College, it's Reedley College, when the board voted, it still has to go up and get approved by the Fresno County School Reorganization Committee. They have never not approved a map. As long as you go through the process works, you've listened to community input, they always approve the map. But this time, some of the conservatives on the college board are trying to get it overturned. So on April 21st, at about 4 o'clock, the meeting starts at 3. It's the last thing on the agenda because they expect it to blow up. We're asking folks to please call in and make some comments. We're talking 30 seconds, a minute. It's not going to be a lot. It is by Zoom. But if any of you guys are willing to show up, I'm going to bug you, Socorro. There are a couple of you in the back over there. You know, come and say hi to me, and we will get you talking points or get you a little something to say, not complicated. But in this case, when we had a State Center Community College Board that did listen to public input, we've got to have their back. So, por favor.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Pam. Thank you to the candidates. And have a good night, everyone.